Hera. Hera was the Olympian queen of the gods, and the goddess of marriage, women, the sky and the stars of heaven. She was usually depicted as a beautiful woman wearing a crown and holding a royal, lotus-tipped scepter, and sometimes accompanied by a lion, cuckoo or hawk. Some of the more famous myths featuring the goddess include her marriage to Zeus, who seduced her in the guise of a cuckoo bird, the birth of Hephaestus, who she produced alone without a father and cast from heaven because he was born crippled, the judgement of Paris, in which she competed against Aphrodite and Athene for the prize of the golden apple, the Trojan War, in which she assisted the Greeks, children of Zeus and Hera. Hera was the mother of Ares, Eileithyia and Hebe. Hebe was the goddess of youth and the cupbearer of the gods who served ambrosia at the heavenly feast. She was also the patron goddess of the young bride and an attendant of the goddess Aphrodite. Ares was the Olympian god of war, battle lust, courage and civil order. In ancient Greek art he was depicted as either a mature, bearded warrior armed for battle, or a nude, beardless youth with a trident spear. Eileithyia was the goddess of childbirth and labor pains. According to some, there were Eileithyia, one who furthered birth and one who protracted the labor. Her name means she who comes to aid or relieve, from the Greek word Eileithyia. Her Roman counterpart was Lucina, light bringer, or Natio, birth. Hera and the birth of Athena. There were two versions of Hera's reaction to the birth of Athena. In the first, she was furious that Zeus had produced a child alone, and she produced Hephaestus in response. In the second, Hera was pleased with the child and accepted her like a daughter. Hephaestus, son of Hera. The most famous story of the birth of Hephaestus appears in the Theogony, Hesiod, for the Greek writer tells of Hephaestus being born to the goddess Hera alone. This bringing forth of life was perhaps retribution against Zeus, who had effectively given birth to Athena without Hera. This solo birth, though, may have caused issues, for whilst the gods and goddesses of the Greek pantheon were known for the beauty, Hephaestus was born ugly, and perhaps with a limp. The ugliness of Hephaestus was sufficient for Hera to immediately reject the baby, and so the Greek goddess was said to have thrown her child off of Mount Olympus, and after a long fall, Hephaestus fell into the sea near to the island of Lemnos. Hephaestus was rescued from drowning by the Oceanic Uranum and the Nereid Thetis, and was taken to the island of Lemnos, but grew up not knowing where he came from. Birth of Typhaon. After Athene's birth from the head of Zeus, Hera was angered and, invoking the powers of heaven and earth, produced the monster Typhaon. He was a giant that was so tall that his head touched the stars. His torso was that of a man, but his legs were coils of vipers that would hiss and attack as he moved. His mane head had on it 100 snake heads who would make different sounds of animals. His eyes were glowing red and would terrify everyone who looked upon them, and he had what was called a savage jaw, which would breathe fire. His body had hundreds of different wings on it, and his hands were made up of 100 snake coils just like his legs.